In studio, Chris Hansen.
Yeah.
He walks in, I gotta be honest with you, I'm like, oh my God, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, he's become kind of that guy that walks in somewhere and you don't want to see it. Used to be, so a reporter from, I guess, 60 Minutes would be the guy that would walk in and you'd go, oh boy.
Mike
now
Wallace.
You're the guy. It's kind of like, oh no, what did I do? Hey, give him a mic.
Oh boy.
Jesus, Opie.
I got the mics on. Hello? Nope. Try that one.
That one worked.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. Every time I walk into a place, people kind of go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to, oh, what did I do? I can't have it.
Well, imagine being one of my kids. When something happens, I said, come on in here and have a seat over there.
Yeah, why don't you have a seat over there? It really is. I've noticed a lot of these guys, now To Catch a Predator is just huge. I mean, got to be very high rated at this point. Everyone knows about it. If
you had asked me when we got this started, if we'd still be doing it, I wouldn't have believed it. I mean, I figured we'd do it 2 or 3 times, and we'd end up, with me just pacing the kitchen and looking like the Maytag repairman with nothing to do. But in fact, that's not what's happened. And we get guys who keep coming. We get guys who talk about the show in the chat.
Yeah.
And show up anyway.
Gosh.
I think the attraction to it is
sometimes.
It's so rare that you get to catch somebody in the act of committing a crime that it's fascinating to watch, especially when you realize what they're doing and who these people are. It's such a cross-section of humanity.
We've seen, a Homeland Security agent. We've had doctors. We've had teachers. We've had people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
In the last investigation, we had a police officer who showed up. This guy had a .38 caliber gun in his pocket. And in his car had an assault rifle, a shotgun, another handgun, hundreds of rounds of ammunition.
Wow.
And videotape equipment.
So when he walked in the door and you walked out, what does he do?
Well, this was a unique situation and perhaps fortunate for us because we had actually quit for the night. We had been working very late the night before. The decoys had been chatting with this guy. He was several hours late, and they said, this guy's not coming. So, of course, we leave. We go to the hotel, and the minute we walk into the hotel, cell phones are ringing, and oh, my God. And so he had called the decoy from a payphone and said, I'm 10 minutes out. So we scramble, and the best thing that we could do was just get crews out to where the police stopped him at a traffic stop. And so there was no incident. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it worries you to think what might have happened.
Yeah, what might have happened. Yeah. You come strolling out. Could you take a seat right down there? And he starts opening fire on you. Are you nervous about things like that? I mean,
we have a very detailed and strict security protocol that we go through, and I'm comfortable based on that. And we adjusted for each individual house and each area.
Metal detectors built into the
and so we
to the door jam.
Pretty much know what's coming. I mean, remember we've had the benefit of reading the entire chat log,
right?
By the time it gets there. So if the guy talks about guns or violence or we'll change up a little bit so we protect ourselves.
Yeah, I saw one just recently with the doctor. That guy, obviously, his life destroyed in a split second.
This guy comes in, and again, I've read the chat, so I pretty much know where his head's at. And the way he walks in, and I'm watching on the monitor, he strikes me as the kind of guy who's probably going to stay in chat. And because of who he is, it's probably going to be a very interesting interview. So he comes in, and the decoy says, have a seat over there, pour yourself a beverage. I'm going to go change in my swimsuit.
Some kind of frozen concoction in a blender.
And as you know, sometimes with frozen concoctions and blenders, once they get in the pitcher, they freeze up and it comes out in a big chunk. He's a little nervous anyway, so he goes to pour this thing. It comes out in one big block.
He just looks like a big dope. He pours it out, it spills everywhere.
It spills everywhere. So now he's going to try and clean up his mess and still have this conversation with the decoy who's allegedly changing into a swimsuit around on the other side. So he goes to get a towel, and as he does, he comes so close to where we're set up that he sees the sound man.
Mission control, he sees back there.
And so they get eye contact, and so now he's gone.
Ready to go, yeah.
And so he's out the door, and the next thing you know, he's on the phone telling his wife to bring $30,000, but not the kids.
Yeah.
The Sonoma County.
Don't bring the kids. It's something I shouldn't have done, but I did it, and... but when the cops come for him, he just knows. You could see him. He goes, no, oh, God.
Well, this cat did not just go on for 15 minutes. I mean, he had been at this for days, and it was very detailed and very explicit. So,
Chris, speaking of that, we talk about the show all the time here. We want you guys to let one guy go as a goof. Just one guy, like, you know, he's convinced his life is destroyed or the cops are going to go after him. And the cops are outside waiting, but you just kind of let him walk away.
Like he wins the lotto.
Yeah, just one guy.
Apparently, the first couple of shows, I guess you did let them go?
Well, we didn't have a situation in the first couple of shows where police were doing a parallel investigation. We were just doing our story. And in the first one...
Oh, so you did have people leave.
We did have people leave. Now, some of those guys were prosecuted later.
Right.
But, you know, we were kind of figuring this thing out as we went along in the first couple investigations. We were in Long Island for the first one.
So that's got to really frustrate you guys, because you're like, wow, we caught a creep here, but we can't do anything, and he is going to just walk away. See, we said that as a goof, but in your position, that's got to be really frustrating.
Well, that's why when Perverted Justice, the online watchdog group, was approached by the Riverside County Sheriff's Department to have a parallel investigation, we thought that would be worthwhile exploring. Difficult, because you want to have a separation from journalism and law enforcement. We don't want to be a tool of law enforcement, and they don't want to be, you know, an arm of journalism. But we were able to work it out so we could do our investigation. We get our copy of the chat logs from Perverted Justice. Law enforcement gets theirs. We do our thing, and afterwards the police do theirs.
Yeah, there kind of is a separation there. It's almost... It's very noticeable. As a matter of fact, you guys are doing what you do, and then a barrier is crossed, and he is now in the hands of law enforcement.
That's pretty much how it works. You know, we have total control over our part of it, and the police and the DA's office has control over its part of it.
What is a pedophile thinking, though? They've discussed your show in the chat log, because they're all aware of the show, I'm sure. When you walk in and then you don't see the person you're supposed to see, and they're like, I'm getting a drink. It's like, why would you keep going in the house? Why don't you just turn around and leave? I mean, you're already caught, but why show up?
Some do. But I think a couple things happen. One, these guys, many of them, develop addictions and compulsions on the Internet to the point where the only thing that will satisfy them is this face-to-face meeting with their dream date. And so they blur this line between fantasy and reality, and they justify it, and they show up, and they're there. And the other thing I think happens is a lot of these guys just figure, it's not going to happen to me. Dateline can't be everywhere. Law enforcement can't be everywhere. And the reality is...
They're right.
They're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the odds are overwhelmingly in their favor.
Are you amazed at how many pedophiles are out there? You brought it to everyone's attention. I had no idea it was an epidemic like this. And now every day we talk about every day you look at the papers, there's another one of these creeps being arrested for something.
I think that it breaks down into three categories based on our experience. You've got the young guys, 22, 23, who are opportunists. I'm not saying that it's okay to do what they do. It's illegal and they shouldn't be doing it. But in their mind, they don't see anything wrong with setting up a date online with a 13 or 14-year-old girl who may be sexually active anyway. The other group are the hardcore heavy hitters. These guys would be in the park or the playground or the movie theaters. They'd be doing this anyway. And there's this group in the middle who, without the Internet, wouldn't be engaging in this sort of activity. These are the guys who got, you know, hooked into the porn sites, you know, into the chat rooms, and they've really developed.
Well, you really think that they wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for the Internet?
I think of the third of the guys who show up in our investigations.
Wow.
I think so.
That's
it's
bold
addictive.
statement.
it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And remember, there's a difference between the classic definition of a pedophile and some of the people we see.
Right.
You know, we refer to them as predators or potential predators. Pedophile has a very distinct definition. Some of the guys we see meet that definition, some don't.
There are guys that are just sadists and hurt children, and it's got to be very satisfying when you catch one of these animals. But are there any guys that have walked in that you've actually, like, whether they get arrested or not, that you've actually go, you know what, this guy I believe probably was a first-timer, and anything that you actually believed?
I think so. I mean, almost everybody who comes in says it's their first time, and I'm pretty sure not all of them are telling me.
Yeah.
But I think there are a handful who have come in, it was their first time. And a couple guys, for instance, we had a situation in Long Beach, California, where a guy had been online chatting with the decoy, and he sends his 15-year-old cousin in there to check it out. Now, this poor kid didn't have a clue. You know, he walks in, and I'm talking to him all of a sudden, and he said, well, my cousin, and he really didn't. I mean, they threw him under the bus to see if everything was okay. And he, you know, he wasn't prosecuted, and, you know, he was fine. So
did they get the cousin?
They did.
Oh. Do you find yourself now, I know a lot of people, especially cops that have to do work like this, they get desensitized to a lot of things. Do you find yourself because you have to paw through so much of this, smut. Do you find yourself getting desensitized a bit?
Not really. What I see is that a lot of these chats follow the same pattern. It's the same.
Not that original.
What's going on? How are you? Oh, you're way too young for me. And all of a sudden, well, have you ever thought of older men? Do you do this? Do that? Do the other thing? But, I need to know what this guy has said and take the nuance so I can do an interview with the guy. And I'm fortunate, too, because I get to do other stories. So,
right.
I mean, this one gets an enormous amount of attention, and it's really, really important. But I do get to do other stuff.
You're doing other stuff, yeah. Well, my favorites are when you actually have the photos of the guys, a little pixelation, and it's like you sent this photo along, and the guy's just like, yeah, that's me. What can you say at that point? It's so embarrassing.
Who knew that so many people were sending photos like this back and forth? I had no clue. No. I didn't know that so many people were hooking up, much less having these kind of conversations.
Yeah, legitimately hooking up. Yeah, there's things going on.
Yeah. I mean, who knew? I didn't.
I don't know. I go to, various news websites.
We did the first one of these, and I was stuck in traffic trying to get over the Throgs Neck Bridge, wondering, gosh, should I just waste tens of thousands of dollars of NBC's money? The producer gets on the phone and says, I got 2 guys you do here in 40 minutes. Get here. And from then on, it just was, guys are running into each other.
So
amazing.
You have caught a lot of people, and it's obviously a great thing. You're catching pedophiles, and I know it's discouraging people because a lot of people probably don't do it because they don't want to get busted. What kind of negative reaction? There has to be somebody complaining about it.
Yeah, there are people who think, okay, you should have done it 2 or 3 times, and you made your point. There are people, for instance, in Texas who were critical because they didn't want us doing this investigation in their neighborhood. I would argue that we made that the safest neighborhood in Texas that weekend.
Yeah.
I would argue that we have a lot of security and precautions in place, so everything was safe. I would argue that we are covering a continuing story, and we don't do just one story on the war on terror or the war in Iraq or the economy or the fuel efficiency in vehicles. We're not going to do just one story on this issue either.
Yeah, this isn't going away. It's
well,
not something that's
okay.
It's fixed. We can't do a story on it anymore.
I mean, what we've done is, take the same hidden camera techniques that we used in Cambodia for child sex tourism or in India for child slave labor in the silk business, and we turned it towards, the issue of computer predators.
What do you think about people that take a lot of trips to Thailand?
Well, it depends what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, we all know what they're doing. They'll come up with other reasons why they have to be there, but
there's a show that's on before us here.
You might want to give them a call.
You might want to, give them a call.
Is that right?
One of the hosts he has been on the terrorist watch list because he flies so much to Thailand, and it's never business. It's always pleasure, and I don't know, unless you're selling rubber dog dew and need to buy it in bulk, I really see no reason to go there except for the child sex industry.
And we asked the question, why do you go to Thailand? And we're doing our own investigation.
It's always very vague. Yeah, we're doing our own investigation.
It's like, they like the beaches. Stop. There's beaches all over the world you can go there.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I have to go there on business. Then you ask a little more, and it's just so vague. Like, they never had to go over there for that even.
Well,
I'm stationed over there, I guess is a good reason, but besides that, I don't know.
There's a lot of that activity over there. We doing past investigations.
Yeah, you've done in Cambodia, right?
Yeah, we're over there, and that, it's rampant in some of these areas.
Yeah. You also just got done in Africa?
We just got back from working on an upcoming story on credit card fraud and identity theft, and we essentially infiltrate a syndicate and work back at every level and through Europe and into Africa. I'll tell you a great story. We were talking to somebody who didn't know that they were on hidden camera as part of this investigation. And essentially, we wire these locations like a predator house. And we had Hansen Discount Electronics and CH Delivery, and so we through every part of this we get there. And what happens is a lot of these guys unwittingly get sucked into these sweetheart scams, and the people are involved in the buying electronics or stolen credit cards, but they take delivery here in the United States and reship it. So we tell this guy to come in, he's got to pick up his packages, and I'm sitting there in a fleece and a Detroit Tigers ball cap on, and he's going on. I said, where did you meet this girl you're in business with? He said, well, in a chat room. Really?
Oh,
he leans over and says, "But you gotta be careful." I said, it's all on him.
Yeah.
He says, because that show Dateline will bust you if you're talking to the young girls. Really?
Oh my God, he's talking to you.
He says, have you seen the show? I said, why, yes, I have. He says, did you see the one last week where the guy walks in for the second time? I said, I saw that. I said, did you see the one where the guy walked in naked? He goes, yeah, that's amazing. And the guys are killing themselves in the back.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm saying, that Chris Hansen's a pretty sharp guy. that might be pushing it just a hair too far.
Oh, man, what are the odds?
Was he angry at you when he finally realized it?
No.
Ask for a picture?
In a following meeting, we said, look, we think you're being scammed. We need you to help us. And he did, and that's how we got to the next level of the next level.
Hey, do you try to set up the older women? I know that's not as prevalent as the older creeps, but you ever get women coming into the house looking for sex with the young boys? Or?
We have never seen that in our investigation. We profile a case in the book where a woman was involved in this sort of activity and caught. But generally, in our experience, and the experts we talk to have said that when it comes to female predators, they certainly exist. We've seen the high-profile cases of teachers and students, but they like to know their target, whereas a male predator is much more comfortable with the anonymity that's provided on the internet.
Yeah, it almost seems like the women, it's a relationship they're going for in some way.
Right.
It's more than just a sexual encounter. But do you see a complete double standard with the way Deborah LaFave was handled and the way a male predator would be handled in the same situation?
I don't know. I know people have made that criticism, and that maybe she got a break because she's an attractive woman, and I'm sure a lot more went into it than that. I'm sure they look at what are the chances of her reoffending, what treatment, what punishment, that sort of thing.
But I don't even think that would be looked into if the shoe was on the other foot and it was a guy, teacher, a young female student. I don't think they would even look at the fact that, well, would he do it again? Will it? I believe there would be some jail time there at least.
There's a double standard there.
Yeah,
I think there is.
Hey, we got a question coming in from Jeff from Richfield. Jeff, you're on with Chris Hansen.
Hey, how's it going? I'm just wondering what you guys put in that lemonade to get those guys to talk so much. I can't believe that they admit to so much on the air.
Are you surprised about that a lot, that they do talk?
I think a couple things happen. One, and we've seen this, some of these guys are sort of relieved. I mean, it's a bad situation.
They want to get it off their chest.
They want to get off their chest. And we've had some of these interviews turn into virtual therapy sessions. Guys going back, I've had a 10-year problem with this. I got older, but the people I'm chatting with have not, and they're young, and as bad as it all is, I think they know that they're going to finally get some help in some of these cases. And I also think that now that people are a little more hip to what's potentially going to happen, these guys know that the police might be outside.
Yeah.
Why not hang and chat for a few minutes?
Before they know the inevitable. And hey, can I have another cookie? These are great. Maybe they'll leave.
Yeah, why cookies and lemonade? This makes everyone happy and comfortable.
It started, we had snacks in the first one, and the young actress who looks even younger, who was working as a decoy, actually just made cookies kind of because there's nothing else.
Anyone talk about how great the cookies are?
We did in Florida. We had guys compliment.
I was a fan of the cookies.
You ought to get them sponsored, by the way. You ought to say, sit down and have some country time lemonade. That's some famous Amos cookies.
I'm sure stations, we all know how sales are. Hey, can we sponsor that thing? We can actually sell the beverage. I did notice the decoy was different on one where now you're showing her face. We really didn't get a look at the first decoy, and now the blonde girl, I guess.
Well, she worked for us in Florida in the last investigation. We change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll work with us for a couple investigations in a row. And
I noticed you give her a little more face time in these the latest one. The decoy, was that a conscious decision?
It was kind of the way it worked out. We had been doing that little by little. But it had been successful, so we did a little more on this last one.
It gives it a little more of a creep factor with the guy and actually
you see the
talking to her,
and what he does, and then she disappears, and I come out. We had one in Texas where the guy wanted some ice, and there was no ice at the bar, so he walks into the kitchen to get the ice, and while he's in there, the decoy disappears and I come out. So he comes walking back, with the ice and expecting the girl. And,
what a buzzkill.
Yeah.
And he's always got some kind of line like, "Hey, got some ice, do you?" like when the guy's doing something unexpected, like, "Hey, why don't you just take a seat there?"
Yeah.
Enjoy your cookies.
Hey, what's the Jimmy, you got some?
Okay.
Yeah, we want to get into the book before we take a break. So you got a book called To Catch a Predator, Protecting Your Kids from Online Enemies Already in Your Home. What's different about this than the TV show is, I guess, what I want to ask.
We had, put together a ton of information and important things, especially for parents, that we just did not have time to get into on the show. Things like issues like collateral damage. What happens to the wives and children of these guys? Treatment versus punishment. What do we do with these guys? And I've had the benefit of talking to some of the smartest people in psychiatry, law enforcement, and I've looked into the eyes of 250 of these guys. And what I've done is I've taken all that information and distilled it, into 20 things parents can do. Not just, okay, don't do this, don't do that, but ways of initiating a discussion. Things that a kid will keep in their mind to keep them safer online.
Where do you think this comes from, by the way? These guys wanting the real young girls.
There are obviously some people who are predisposed to this, and I think some guys who are open to the idea but who would not do this without the internet spend hours and hours and hours in the chat rooms and on these porn sites, and they get off on the sites that cater to people who are interested in younger targets.
They have on the net too. It's a really weird thing. They have sites that are about young girls, but they're not porn sites. They're just these creepy sites that there was one about this girl Jessie. Like we're like almost like parents put up photos of their kids in bikinis and doing all this non-sexual stuff. Wink, wink. But you know what it is. It's like a really weird line that I think they're having these sites taken down now. But it's almost like legal pedophile sites.
Well, there are sites that obviously are catering to guys who are wired this way, but it's hard for law enforcement to
stay within the boundaries of the law.
To take them down because, okay, so what? What constitutes child porn? And there's a fine line with those sites.
We have to take a break. You want to hang out?
Sure, I got some time.
All right, we got some phone calls coming in for Chris Hansen. The new book's called To Catch a Predator. We'll continue in just a bit. It's the Opie and Anthony Show. We got Chris Hansen in studio. His new book is To Catch a Predator, Protecting Your Kids from Online Enemies Already in Your Home. And we were talking about some of the scams that are going on out there. And Anthony, you mentioned as I walked back into the studio, black money.
Well, Chris is doing special from Africa, I guess.
Coming up.
Well, Europe also on these scams. We've all seen them in our emails. Somebody from Nigeria kind of drops you a line and says they have $10 million they need to remove from the country, and they need your help. And if you contact these people, they'll string you along and slowly drain you of all your money. One of these things I heard is black money. What they do is they say they take $100 bills and they've dyed them black to get them out of the country, so it doesn't come across as money. And you have to buy a chemical.
What is it supposed to be if it's not money?
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the shape of money, but it's black.
It's in a wallet.
Exactly.
I guess why I'm asking that, it amazes me that people actually fall for some of these scams to begin with.
Yeah.
Something like that is like, why else would they have to get this out of the country?
What they do is they give you a small sample of a chemical, or you have to go to them and they show you how this works, and you'll have all this money. But the chemical is very expensive, and to get as much as you need to de-ink $1 million or so, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and people give them this money. It amazes me that people fall for this.
You look at these things, and on the surface you say, who would fall for that? What are you thinking about? But these scammers are so good at getting people emotionally and mentally invested in this thing, where sometimes people really start to believe they're going to make some money. We had a case in Michigan, county treasurer, who decided to not only invest some of his money, but some of the county's money, allegedly. Right. Of course, that got lost, and now there's a big...
Oh, man, he's in trouble.
Big problem.
Yeah. It just... any of those scams, I'm so leery of them, and you would think in this day and age, more people would be computer literate enough to recognize a scam or phishing, which, that I was just telling you happened to me the other day. My bank had sent me an email and said that there were charges that they weren't sure of, and click on this link and please put in this info. And I was like, no, this obviously isn't going to my bank. I could see the URL up top. It's different than my bank would be. And you would think people would be more computer savvy in 2007.
Well, I think a lot of folks, get home from work, click on the computer, and they're just trying to get through the emails. Like, I'll get rid of this and do that. I mean, in the credit card fraud story we were talking about earlier, it's on in a couple weeks. One of the victims we profiled did exactly that. Just came home in a hurry and clicked it. Next thing you know, her account was drained. It was her ATM card, her debit card.
Did she get her money back?
She did ultimately, yeah. Yeah, the banks are good about this sort of thing. But what was amazing to me is just the volume of fraud that goes on with stolen identities and stolen credit card numbers. I mean, stuff that every day. I mean, electronics and all kinds of products that are bought and then shipped overseas to sell. It's a billion-dollar business.
The internet has opened up a whole new landscape for this too. It used to be, I guess, the old stories of them rummaging through your garbage and find your identity that way. Now you have a virtual online garbage pail to rummage through and steal people's identity that way.
Yeah. I mean, there are ways to protect all that, but I think a lot of people just haven't gotten hip to how to do it, and you got to take that extra minute and think about what you're doing online.
When you look at Mark Foley, or a guy who can get busted by just having something copied and saved, a lot of people who are over the age of 25 don't realize that you can save everything. They don't understand the dangers of it because they didn't grow up with computers.
Hey, I got to go ahead. Answer that.
No, I
got an interesting call. I want to make sure you
Sure, absolutely. It's just like, you got to teach your kids not to give out all kinds of information on their social networking sites. I mean, these predators, for instance, whether it's a financial predator or a computer sexual predator, these guys are really good at taking bits and pieces from a kid's MySpace and getting into a conversation and grooming the kid over a period of weeks and finding out where they are and setting up a meeting. One of the things is we say be careful of strangers. But some of these predators are so good at developing a relationship, the kid doesn't think it's a stranger
You
anymore.
built up like an outline of what this kid's about, interests, and now you can kind of talk like you're interested in the same
and they're
things.
Working and kids have to know that, that these guys are out there.
Hey, I got an observation. You have a way of looking at people. You're not looking at my soul, are you? Anyone else getting a little paranoid as he just looks deep into your eyes when he talks? It's like, look, man, I have nothing to hide.
All right. Well,
keep your hands
Opie, you barely have nothing to hide.
Like, why is he looking so intensely at me, man? We got Laura from Glen Cove. Laura, you're on with Chris Hansen.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, Chris. I actually work with one of the guys that was featured actually on the show, Eddie. He was a TV producer, supposedly.
Sure, I remember him well. He was he came over to visit us in our first investigation in Long Island.
Yeah, he's definitely creepy. He had actually, it was a rumor going around that he was on it, but no one could find the footage online until finally someone that doesn't even work with us, they actually work in another office in the same building, had pointed it out to us and showed us where to find it.
This was a guy who came over after an explicit online conversation, and he knocks on the door and comes in, and he says to the decoy, says, tell me you're 19. And she says, well, I already told you that I'm 14. And it goes back and forth and gets pretty tense. Remember, this is the first one, so we're still kind of figuring out.
Feeling it out, sure.
And so finally the decoy says, well, okay, whatever, I'm 19, and he comes in, and of course I come out, and he says, I knew it, and we go back and forth. He said, I was just, checking this out, I knew it was a sting. I said, well, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a television producer. I said, ironically, I work in television too. See, this guy sort of, got it.
Yeah.
And, he congratulated us on our good work, and so he was
That's great.
looking forward to seeing the story.
But he was free, reference. But he was free to go, right?
At that,
because that was early on in
this
that
whole first
thing.
investigation. I believe there's only one case that was prosecuted, and that was a New York City firefighter who surfaced in the investigation.
Yeah,
but it did destroy, part of their life. I'm sure it gave them that little kick in the ass not to do it again. Perhaps, I don't know. It seems like you're ruining your life.
Well, I think in some cases it probably has. I mean, it's a wake-up call for some of these guys.
Unless you're a lonely, creepy guy in a one-room apartment, with the neon hotel light blinking outside. A lot of these guys have families, jobs that would just be completely destroyed.
Well, people always ask, what's the profile of one of these guys? Well, as you've seen in the stories, and we talk about it in the book, these are guys who come from mainstream American movies. Now, we get, our percentage of creepy-looking fellas, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of them do not have the word predator tattooed on their forehead.
Were there any times that you felt like you were really in the room with, like, a sociopath, like a real problem who could be a problem for you, or you're in danger?
We've had, I don't know, a couple of tense moments. In California, a military guy was there, and he'd already taken off his shirt, for the hot tub, and walked around and saw us, and we were face to face, and there was a split second there where I thought, this guy is thinking about whacking me. I mean, and he's got the guns to do it, and it was quiet for a minute. I said, come on, let's talk over there. Let's just sit right down over there. And he calmed down, and we had a long conversation about the whole thing.
Well, you do come across, and I think a lot of these guys think you're a cop. When you come out, you don't identify yourself as an officer, and
you don't see
the way
cameras there.
Yeah. I think it's the way you carry yourself, and you kind of you take control of the situation. You tell them, hey, sit down. You're kind of, presenting yourself as an authority figure, and I think that helps out.
Well, I think some of these guys think I might be with law enforcement. I don't try to be that way. I think some think I might be the father. We've had that. Tell your daughter I'm sorry, I would never do this, or tell your son. But
your daughter's a slut. Jesus.
Hey, real fast, Laura. So what happened to Eddie?
Oh, well, he's still around. I'm not going to say where we work. We were in sales, though, and I could tell he was giving you a pitch there, Chris, when he was talking to you. But I actually took over his old seat with his computer, and me and the IT guy, it must have taken us hours to get all the porn off it.
Really?
Off the computer, yeah.
That's interesting.
Was it child porn, or was it just regular stuff?
Well, I didn't really want to check it out all that much, but it just seemed like old, regular porn.
I hope you changed out the keyboard.
Yeah, no kidding. But he's still around. You see him?
Yeah, he actually, I was...
This guy's
really,
walking free?
Pardon me? Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, we would go out, after work for drinks and stuff, and this is before I even knew, and he would say...
Where Chuck E. Cheese, he would always recommend. Can we go to Chuck E. Cheese tonight?
He would just say really, really nasty stuff. I mean, I can recall some pretty vulgar things he had said, about women that he had been with or what he wanted to do after work and this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
All right.
So.
All right. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
All right, let's go to Eric in New Jersey. Eric.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Obviously you're dealing with a very serious subject matter, very heavy stuff. I was just curious, is there like a gag reel, no pun intended?
There's not really a gag reel, but,
I would love to see the bloopers.
Clearly,
I really would.
There are some humorous moments that pop up. I mean, for instance, when we did the first one, they started coming so quickly that it was hard to keep the right transcript with the right guy. So I walk out with a transcript. I say, "No, it says here that you came to meet a 13-year-old girl by the name of so and so." No, not me. Hang on. A 14-year-old girl. No, not me.
Not me.
13-year-old girl. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, good.
Okay, we got the right.
You just hope the age keeps going up. 22-year-old. Yes, that was the one.
Yeah, the guy's hoping. He's keeping his fingers crossed.
Oh, made it.
I got past 14. Come on, 15. Let's say hi to Joey in Jersey. Joey.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Listen, I know you guys were talking about credit card fraud or whatever before.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for Chris over there.
Sure.
What happened was, a couple years ago, someone got a hold of my bank card, because I'm an idiot, left it at the ATM machine. And they rung up like $996 on Shop NBC. Now, 2 years later, I thought my bank took care of this. Now it's at Shop NBC, and they're telling me they have absolutely zero record whatsoever. I have no idea what to do about this. My bank says that there's a record of it. Shop NBC has zero record. I went to the highest person I could find there, and they have found nothing in anywhere of their computer systems.
Chris will get right on that for you, sir.
That's right.
Usually the banks are pretty good about tracking this down. If you call the specific fraud section of the bank, they'll assign somebody to you, and it may take a while, but they're good at tracking it down because they want to make an example of these guys too.
All right.
He did that already. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, so don't yell at Chris.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what to do for you. I'm sorry. Let's say hi to Mary. She's a parent. Mary, Connecticut. What's up?
Hey, Chris. It's Mary, Pierce's mom.
Hey, Mary. How are you?
Good. I just want to thank you
Well, I appreciate
You
that.
have addressed and you are taking care of all of our worst fears. And I've always felt, Chris, that you were going to do something very special and important. So I run around my house saying, told ya. Told ya. So thank you, Chris.
Sounds like a fan.
Oh, you wait, no,
nice
sound
of
like
you,
she
Mary.
knows
I appreciate
Chris.
it.
She
Yeah.
knows Chris.
Can you hear me?
I sure
Yeah.
can.
All right, Mary, thanks.
It's very nice of you. Thank you.
All right, and finally, Mike in Queens. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I got a couple of questions for Chris regarding his show. I mean, I'm all for prosecuting predators and stuff, but it's kind of like not realistic. He never mentions about his decoys, what they're saying to entice these guys into these chats. They really don't mention how they get them. And also, you know, in real case scenarios where children are talking to these predators and stuff, he really doesn't bring up the point that their level of responsibility for that. I mean, hundreds of thousands of children out there are talking like this to people as a form of entertainment, and they're enjoying it, and, you know, with the MySpace and all that stuff like that. And it's like, and even Chris, when he's doing this in the form of entertainment with his sarcasm and wisecracks. We laugh at it. I love watching the show, but I watch it for the entertainment value, not the shock value of it.
Well, I'll say a couple of things on that. One, you know, when these decoys from Perverted Justice set up in a chat room, they have a profile that includes a picture that's unmistakably underage. They never make the first move. The guy always makes the first move.
Always.
And in the vast majority of cases, the guy is the one who first brings up sex.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes care of the one issue. In terms of me being a little creative with the questions, I think sometimes that gets a more detailed response from these guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mike. I'm sorry you're disappointed that he's
I'm not
busting
disappointed.
pedophiles out there.
Hey,
Mike's an ass.
Let me tell
What
you,
about all these 6-year-olds?
Mike,
Jesus.
I'm going to look forward to seeing you on the show.
Yeah. All right, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
We got to leave it there. Go ahead, Jimmy.
The book is called To Catch a Predator. It's just great stuff. Protecting your kids from online enemies in your home. It's a lot more detailed than the show is, obviously. And Chris Hansen, man, you do a great thing.
Thanks, guys. Really,
Thank you.
pleasure being
Thanks
here.
for coming down.
My
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely. Barry from Pittsburgh. Chris Hansen would be a fun guy to hire to do a surprise birthday party. Can you imagine? Have the guest of honor walk into an unfamiliar place and then have Chris greet him. That would be hilarious.
Why don't you sit down and have some birthday cake?
And just before he has a heart attack, surprise! What do you got, Ant?
Here for sign.
Got a little
I
package.
don't know. Why am I opening this? Oh, it says, attention, Anthony.
Aw, what is it?
I don't know. It's a box.
Hopefully it's someone's head.
What is it?
Wait a minute.
It's a USB port missile launcher. What the hell did people give me?
What is that?
You plug it into your computer and you launch little Nerf missiles.
It's great. You should get on your hands and knees and open your asshole and have someone fire them at you, lucky dog.
Said I wasn't gonna.
By the way, I'm looking at my picture with Chris Hansen,
Yeah.
and I don't know how my girlfriend's pussy gets wet. I don't know how she pulls it off. What an ugly motherfucker.
Oh, Jimmy.
Your
girl doesn't think you're ugly. That's
made
what's
a
important.
funny face.
It would, but my neck and my hair. What an ugly motherfucker. Give me the Pal Talk camera. I'll show him. It's disgusting.
I don't know which one's working. Mine isn't, of course. Why would it be working?
We got Chris Hansen
Yes.
from To Catch a Predator.
Mm-hmm.
That show is beyond huge,
Oh, yeah.
obviously. He's been on our show a couple times, on the phone, in studio.
Yep.
Let's get him in here.
Sure.
Chris Hansen, everybody.
Oh, Steve's going to get him.
Oh, okay.
They're doing marathons now on MSNBC, 9 to 4 in the morning.
Yeah, love it.
Got a little surprise for him.
Hey, how are you? Good. Why don't you take a seat over there, Chris?
I know that was coming.
Enjoying the cookies and lemonade?
Well, you know, we had brownies at the last...
Take a seat. Brownies, did you? Brownies.
Exactly.
So, what are you doing here?
I just came to be on the Opie and Anthony show.
On the Opie and Anthony show.
Well, yeah, I've been here before.
You've been here before. So you've done this before.
No, you're supposed to say, it's not your first time.
So it's not your first time. I have a few
You have
transcripts of things that, well, let's listen to them together and see if you recognize any of these. Is this you, Chris?
I'm not going to avoid the subject. I would like to make love to you after we are done boot shopping. I have a serious fetish for boots.
Do you have a fetish for boots? Is that what you were saying in this?
This is like the being put on the spot here. It's
well, you did say that, didn't you? I believe that's your voice. Do we have another clip for Chris?
I can't control my horny level. I want to blank your brains out. I can't help it.
You know, when I read that back to that particular potential predator, there was something in the back of my mind that said, that could come back to haunt me.
Oh, so you're saying you've read this back?
Before.
This was in reference to a 15-year-old girl.
Well, it was.
I think we have one more clip. Chris, is this you?
Remember, sex is a little nasty. I don't want your dad to find stuff in his bed.
Chris, you're a responsible journalist. And now you understand your life is ruined. I'd like to bring our camera crew out here. You do realize this is on video.
You're supposed to say, there's something I've got to tell you. We're Opie and Anthony. We're on 92.3 K-Rock.
He invented this game.
Yeah, but
he's so damn good at it.
Yeah, but he's sweating a little bit. Just a little bit. You can hear it.
Early. We usually shoot these investigations at night. I have the whole day to prepare.
I'm sorry, our camera crew's not as big as yours.
No.
Exactly.
I love when they come out with the booms too. That's fantastic.
Oh, you got to hear everything.
Well, Chris Hansen.
Wait, can we play the last one?
What is there more?
Well, we had a whole bunch, but this one we just got to play.
All right,
it's downright creepy hearing Chris Hansen say this.
You are ready to have my thang in your...
Oh, jeez.
Was that a black dude?
Well, it was typed off as a thang.
But I'm saying the way he had to add thang.
Well, he's just reading the transcripts as they come out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His monotone... non-attached reading style left at the thing.
You don't want to sound like it's titillating.
Baby.
But here's the thing. A lot of times, I'm talking to these guys, and they're not very vocal, and sometimes the best way to get them to talk is to go back and read the transcripts. And I read them, verbatim.
Right.
And we try to balance, showing people what these guys are capable of doing and not trying.
Yeah, we get one of the black dudes, the soul shake, like the extra black. Like he was like, "What's up, man?" and gave you the thing. You just follow along with the.
No, but I did in the last investigation. I did get a
and you gave him a pound.
This was the guy who was the fan of yours. Right?
Hey, we've been playing.
Wait a minute.
I can turn this around.
He invented it. I'm telling you,
I've seen you walk down the street before. I'll let this go so long. I'll flip this around.
Wait a minute. We're still arguing the fact if this guy was an actual fan of our show.
Oh, it's so true.
We have a lot at stake here.
Well,
we think he might have been a casual listener.
Casual?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This guy came in, and he had the conversation with the on-site decoy in this most recent investigation, and she was brilliant because she could really engage these guys. So not only did we see this online grooming and this contact, we saw this play out in real time, and these guys are saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so this happens, and it comes time for me to walk out, and he says, you're Chris Hansen. And I said, how did you know that? He goes, I'm a religious viewer. I never miss an episode. I pull them off the internet. And before I can formulate the next question, he says, oh, and I heard you on Opie and Anthony. You're pretty good. And I'm like, do you get the trouble that...
don't you understand this isn't a meet and greet?
Yeah.
You're pretty much screwed here.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Can I ask you a question, Chris?
Absolutely.
Why don't you... I watched the show. Matter of fact, they do marathons now, like...
On MSNBC.
Like they used to do Lockup, they changed it to it's Predator Night.
Yeah.
And I used to love Lockup.
Lockup's gone.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's figure this out. The age 13, 14, all right, there's so many guys that get caught that there has to be something about that age that has to be a teetering age. Can you lower the age to 9 so that it is exact?
Wait a minute. Insane.
So that you know.
He's wearing a tie.
Because there's so many dudes that come in to this 13 is not stopping people.
Patrice, that's supposed to show that there's a problem here.
Yes.
Not the fact that you lower the age to get these guys off the hook.
No. Not to get him off the hook.
See, I was with you if you said 15.
Wait a minute, no.
Jesus.
Lower the age to 9. Let me make sure you understand it.
He's in shock over there.
Listen to this. Listen, I don't care if Chris is in shock. Listen to this. Stop being a journalist for
Clearly.
a second. Meaning the perverted justice people
the decoys.
lower the decoy age to something fouler than 13.
You know,
most people say 13 is foul.
Don't try to back me into a corner.
I'm not backing you into a corner.
13 is an arguable age. I'm going to tell you why. I talked to my girlfriend the other day. I said, when did you have sex? She said 13 is when I first had sex with a 17-year-old guy. I said, did you feel like you were raped? Did you feel like you was taken advantage of? She said, no, I just wanted to have sex. So I'm saying there's a few 13-year-olds that are having sex. I think not under the coercion.
Yeah, but they don't want with 30-year-old guys and
but
stuff.
Make the age 9 so you go, Because people are going 14.
But people are saying, to 13.
Let Chris answer.
The law is the law. And the reality is this, and I understand your point, but I think from the decoy's point of view, when perverted justice does this, they try to set up the most realistic scenario. And you would see most often, I think, a scenario where a 13 or 14-year-old could conceivably be home alone, where perhaps a 9-year-old may not be.
And they're also trying to keep it sexy and hot.
To keep it, this is what I'm saying here, to keep it coming. So that if you lower it to 9, dudes that do that, you go, let's work our way from the bottom. Because 13 and 14, basically what he's saying, it's an appealing age to come for dudes to be like, 14.
Well, it seems to be the age that a lot of these girls and guys, these predators, are using the computer and communicating with each other, are mostly in that age bracket.
Well, I think that's the age bracket that these potential predators target, because those are kids who are online and they're curious.
Right.
And they're out there in the social networking sites and in the chat rooms. So, naturally they become the targets for this type of
they're going for where the targets are.
Hey,
that's all.
Why aren't you drinking our lemonade?
I wouldn't.
my coffee here.
Wouldn't drink that either.
The cookies
God
are
knows
good.
where the interns got it.
Exactly. We didn't poison the cookies.
He's smart. He's a smart man.
I haven't survived this long. By being on the show.
I've been watching MSNBC, and on the weekends, it is just. I was talking about this the other day. I don't know how it's affecting people, but it is murder weekend. It is just murder weekend. Every weekend, you could see murders and then how they catch the people. And I'm fascinated by this. And I saw one that you actually did a story on. And it was a while ago. You were adorable. You must have been very young in your younger days. It was that double jeopardy case.
Oh, it was the Malik Nada.
Oh, my God.
Down in...
was that
that one is unbelievable.
That was the twins you were telling me about?
No, this was the one where a man...
down in Louisville, Kentucky?
Yeah, in Kentucky. He murdered his wife.
Correct.
And he had some girlfriend accomplice help him out. They photographed this murder and took some of her jewelry, did horrible things to her before they murdered her.
Wait, so they murdered her and they took all sorts of pictures?
Yeah, as he was having sex with her and murdering her. And they could never find these pictures or the missing jewelry, and that's what the case really hinged on with the jury.
But how did they know there was pictures?
Well,
somebody else.
The
woman rolled.
What happened was they tried this guy, and basically he got off. And some years later, as I recall, he sold the house, and the people came in to recarpet.
Yeah, pulled up the carpet.
They pulled up the carpet, and in one of the areas where there was a ventilation, they found some canisters of undeveloped film. And they developed this film, and it is photographic evidence of the actual murder.
Wow. And they couldn't, it's double jeopardy, so they got him on a perjury charge.
Right, they did.
But
50-year perjury.
He's out. Yeah, I think they tried. They got some like 8 years.
Good, yeah.
But he's out now, and whenever a camera approaches him, he just starts quoting gospel, and he's you're born again. So he doesn't address it. He just goes, the Lord will be my judge. And
you ever get scared of Max Cady stuff, Chris? Like, first, do you have police in there? That's what we was discussing before. Do you have people in there in case a dude goes, you mother, I'm going to knock you out right now?
We have a very detailed security protocol that we have, and so it's tailored to each individual location, and whether we're doing a predator thing or whether we're doing iPod theft or ID theft and we're in West Africa, I mean, we have a team in place, so I feel pretty comfortable.
I saw that. Karate, you can fight, can't you?
Well, I grew up in Detroit.
He can fight.
All right. He can take care of himself.
That's all he needs to say.
And here's another thing I like to ask, and sometimes I get a little bored watching you just catch it. Could you do something, just like when the guys come up, have a 50-year-old woman answer the door, and just have the guys just go, wait a minute.
Yeah, we want bloopers.
13?
We want some bloopers.
It's not really a show conducive to comedy.
We want bloopers. We want Benny Hill music.
I don't think you can really spin it funny.
You old.
Hey, I saw the Scam Show also. That was great from the Nigerian scammers. And when you get the guy running down the street, you must have known that was going to be funny.
He was moving fast.
Wait, could you explain? I didn't see this.
These are the guys, investigators call it the Nigerian scams.
Sure.
And they get you online. Hi, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so, and I need your help. I've got $38 million, but I need you to put up $10,000 to give me a bank account. And people fall for this stuff all the time.
Amazing.
There was a treasurer in Michigan who invested not only his own money but some county funds in this thing, thinking that it's alluring. It's like these people get drawn in these sweetheart swindles online. People are lonely. They spend time in these chat rooms, and they develop these relationships, and these other kind of predators prey on their emotions, and that wins over the intellect, and suddenly they're carving checks. But we had this guy who we had been in contact with, and I was posing as Rich Greenback.
Yes, Rich Greenback. He had money that were all money names. It was really funny.
Jimmy DeMoney.
Jimmy DeMoney was one.
I love it.
My producer in this case, Tim Muellinger, who's a great guy, and he found this pub in London, and the ruse was that I was part owner of it, and that's where we had to have the meeting. Well, they always want to get you into their territory, but we wanted to get them in ours. So the guy comes in, and he's looking around, and we sit down, and we have the meeting. I said, look, we had a little problem with the funds transfer, but here's $500, and we'll get back later in the day. And so we're back and forth, and we meet him in different locations in London, and we look at Rolls Royces that I'm going to buy. Once this money comes in, we're sitting in it, and we're all comfy. And so the finally guy comes back, and I confront him. I lower the boom. And I said, look, I know that you're trying to rip me off, and this guy is sweating profusely. And we're in this pub, and he looks up and he says, can I get a beer? I need a little bracer to take the edge off.
He starts drinking. He confronted one guy on the street and pretty much told him, I know you're trying to scam people. And the guy just turned and started running away. And you're just standing in the street going, excuse me, you want to talk?
But you feel like running can make anything go away.
Yeah.
If you run fast
And the best part is how you ask him, could I have my $500 back? Yeah. And the guy goes, yeah, actually gives him the $500
bucks
the
finance people were so happy because I got this the money back each time. Yeah, it was good.
Are you at the top of your, what you do in the news world, is that, is it more prestigious to be Bill O'Reilly, be you, be blah,
Well, it's just different.
Oberman or something?
It's just different. I've always enjoyed investigative reporting. When I was 14 years old, I lived a mile away from the restaurant where Jimmy Hoffa was kidnapped, and I became enthralled with this whole story, and I saw the network show up, and the FBI was there, and it just, I got bit by the bug then. So I've always enjoyed this sort of reporting.
If they offered you Stone Phillips' job, would that be something you go, ooh, I would love to do that? Or you'd be like, I'd rather stay doing what I'm doing?
It's not going to say no.
I've got a great gig, to be honest with you, and they let me do the kinds of stories I like to do. And one of the things that has come out of the Predator investigations is it has been a reminder that this kind of enterprise reporting, this kind of impact journalism, is not only something that people are interested in, that people watch, but it makes a difference. It creates a dialogue. It raises awareness. And it's, quite frankly, engaging for me. It's interesting. I love going to work. I love, who gets to go on a plane and go to West Africa and track down some ID thieves? Who gets to do that?
Right.
It's got to be like, even though you're doing something for the greater good, let's say, getting these people off the streets, it's got to feel good personally at a personal, just a basic human level, where you go, I'd love to get my hands on this guy that's doing this. Like when I read those scam emails,
right.
I want to write back and just go, who do you think you're kidding? I'm insulted that you sent me this.
Right,
that you think I'm so stupid.
And you get to confront these guys. And above and beyond that, I work with some really smart, talented people. I mean, the producers with whom I work get it on every level. And they're not only bright journalists, they're good pals. And so, I have it pretty good.
Why is the show so popular, do you think?
To Catch a Predator?
Yeah.
It's a combination of things. It's this knowledge that these guys are out there, and most people only see it on this anonymous, nameless, faceless genre, where it's just text. And we bring this to life. And so you see the face of this guy walk in, and he's not a guy that has the word predator tattooed on his forehead. He looks like the guy standing next to you at the dry cleaners on Saturday morning. And I think it's surprising to people that Joe Average, would not only engage in this explicit discussion, which is in most states illegal in itself, but to walk into a stranger's home in a suburb, into a $3 million house on the Jersey Shore on the beach.
The beach ones are hilarious.
No big deal.
The beach ones are hilarious, but the girl just sitting there just happens to have 2 beach chairs set up.
Yeah.
I was watching that over the weekend.
I think another compelling thing about the show is the fact that you're not seeing the people in cuffs in a mugshot.
Right.
You're seeing it taking place as it's happening.
And that was what was so compelling about the last investigation was this, Casey, our decoy, who, 18-year-old college student, theater, dance, who looks...
She really looks the part.
13.
It was amazing.
And she was really, but she was really smart. And she had the ability to engage these guys in a way that we had not seen before. And I think it was startling to people to see this real-time, live grooming process take place.
After the first time, did you go, after you did it the first time, did you go, we might as well make the best of this because this will never be able to be done again? And you're like, wait a minute, every week we're getting 15 dudes to come see?
I figured we'd do it, 2, maybe 3 times. And when we went to Riverside County, California, which is the first time we did our investigation and law enforcement did a parallel investigation, I really sort of thought, wow, what are the odds that we're going to have anybody walk into this house? We may come back with nothing but video of me pacing in a kitchen like the Maytag repairman. And this is the one where we had 51 guys show up.
51?
Guys were running into each other. We had a Homeland Security agent. We had a teacher. We had, guys from all walks of life.
Can I ask you a statistical question?
Sure.
We see the guys on your show.
Right.
How many dudes and how many teenage girls, how many times is this scenario that you playing out with perverted justice happening
in real life?
Yeah, that's not getting caught.
It's impossible to tell because of the nature of the internet. The Justice Department really doesn't have good figures on this. I mean, they can tell you how many murders take place in any given city. They can tell you the recidivism rate for any given crime, but you can't track this stuff. We know anecdotally that we can go into any city in America and have this happen. But in terms of how often it really happens, nobody really knows. I mean, that's the nature of the internet.
And you keep it at the letter of the law. Like earlier, you go, hey, it's the law. Now, is there something where you ever discuss in your own mind or to people like where you go, okay, here's the age? Because there's a lot of Indian dudes on your show, and they're shocked. And I do stand up, and I talk to Indian dudes, and the age is something ridiculous over there where they're from. And they go, what? 14? That's old.
Well, I think that the people who come into the house reflect the population of the city we're in and the professions. If we're near a military base, we'll see more military guys. If we're, near Silicon Valley,
I know what you're doing now. I'm not making it a racial question.
No, but there's no
making it a law question, like
racial issue.
A moral, like say there's no law.
Right.
There's no standard of law and an age that you just make up and decide.
But in this country, the law is the law.
The law is the law. But I'm saying, is there like a thing where you guys go, it's like say if it was 16, the law was 17 in the state you're in, and then you send out a 16-year-old thing, and guys are coming out to see a 16-year-old, but the law is 17 where you are. So are you going to have the same outrage or the same disgust that the dude that's doing the 16-year-old
I think
thing?
that the protocol for perverted justice decoys is that they wouldn't even set up that scenario because it would be it wouldn't be illegal. It wouldn't be No,
I mean, like, if 16 was...
a little marginal call right there.
Like, I think California's like 16.
Let's go to Mike in Jersey. This comes up a lot. Mike, go ahead. We got Chris Hansen on our show.
How you doing, guys? Notice how he said shut up.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
All right, what's your question?
Well, I think it's entrapment. I think it's wrong. I mean, say...
I don't think he mean... Dude, calm down for a second. Wait a minute. I don't think he meant set up as in setting them up. I think he meant the scenario, and because cameras, police, things have to be set up, houses, so he's not saying he's trying to entrap the people. He's saying the scenario. He's not going to set up a 16-year-old scenario.
I know the guys are scumbags, but it's still entrapment.
You must get that a lot.
Yeah, well, here's
the entrapment.
Here's why it's not, and it's because when the perverted justice decoys go into the chat rooms, they simply have a profile which includes a picture that's unmistakably underage, and they sit and wait. They never make the first move. It's always the potential predator who makes the first move.
And isn't it the intent that is the crime? That's why a lot of people say, well, I was role-playing.
Right. It varies from state to state. The laws do, but in a lot of states, the online solicitation in and of itself could constitute a felony.
Regardless of who's on the other end.
Well, if it's somebody who they believe is underage. I mean, the police do sting operations all the time, and the decoy is not always, a 12 or 13-year-old kid.
Sure.
But that's how these people are called.
Right. Hey, we're running out of time here. We want to promote the... you're doing something on Dateline there, Chris?
Tonight at 10 Eastern, we are doing an investigation into iPod theft. And we didn't realize what a problem this was until one of our senior producers' sons had his iPod stolen. So we decided to go out and see if we could track these things and who was taking them. So we bought about 20 iPods, and we inserted into the package software. So whoever ended up with this thing would register with Apple and register with us. So then we had this 32-foot RV, right, and it's outfitted like a Predator house, hidden cameras and everything. And it's got a banner on the side saying music giveaway. And so when we'd identify where one of these things was, we'd pull up, and the producer would get out with balloons and a camera crew, a la Prize Patrol, knock on the door and say, you're eligible for this free music giveaway, this music download card. They'd come into the RV, and I'm sitting there, and I'd sit down, and I'd ask them, where'd you get it? Best Buy, Circuit City, cash or credit card, right? What kind of music do you have on it? And for 20 minutes, go on and say, there's a video I want you to see. And of course, there's a monitor up there. And then the video is, in some cases, of them stealing the actual iPod. And it goes back around to the question, should Apple do more? Could it do more? What's the responsibility to track these things, given the fact that, this eye-jacking,
right,
as it's called, is epidemic?
You know what I'm thinking? So the guy goes into the RV, he sees you like, oh, no, I didn't touch her. And then it's like, oh, he got me because I stole an iPod. He's like,
they see you like, no, man, no.
Look, I'm not trying to say that iPod theft is the same as
yeah, but as soon as they see you, though, they're like, they're in a panic, like, oh, no.
And people would come in and say, hey, you look like that Chris Hansen. Yeah. I said, I get that all the time.
I get that all the time.
They're pretty much relieved that you got him for an iPod freaking theft instead of the other one.
It's really a fun...
it sounds like
cool.
lot of... And also you got a book out there, right?
Absolutely. It's on the whole Predator issue, the enemy already in your home. And, I took all these experiences that I've had and looking in the eyes of some 300 of these guys and talking to some of the experts in this field and distilled this information for parents to help keep their kids safe online.
It's called To Catch a Predator, Protecting Your Kids from Online Enemies Already in Your Home.
Before we go, though, I got to ask you if you're allowed to talk about the lawsuit at all that's against the network.
Look, I can tell you this. I'm a little limited because the lawsuit's actually been filed, but, the lawyers have gone through the claims. They're without merit, and NBC is going to defend itself vigorously. Anybody can file a lawsuit, and they don't have to verify the things that are in it.
It's a guy that apparently took his life because he was caught in one of the...
the DA.
Yeah.
I was actually... I ain't gonna lie to you. The DA. I was like, good for you. Because he was one of the dudes that helped set up the whole thing, supposedly.
Well, it is kind of ironic,
The
isn't
family,
it?
right?
Yeah.
All right, listen, we got a break. We're running out of show here. Chris Hansen, it's always
Chris,
a pleasure.
guys,
You know
thanks
that.
for having me. I
Always
appreciate
a pleasure, man.
I'm really mad you didn't drink any of our lemonade or even try the
I got me
cookies.
some coffee.
You got
I'm
the
in
coffee,
great
though.
shape, yeah.
Tonight, it's on Dateline. Chris tracks down stolen iPods and confronts the thieves in a hidden camera investigation. 10 o'clock tonight on NBC.
Well, Chris, you know now you're free to go. I think you know what's waiting for you outside. Thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure having you on, man.
I appreciate it.
All right. Chris Hansen was great, wasn't he?
That was fun.
We're going to make a video of that. I mean, Anthony doing Chris Hansen to Chris Hansen with the lemonade and the cookies, playing his transcripts. I'm telling you, we got a great video.
I think he was a little shook up at the beginning.
I heard in his voice like, "Oh my, this is how it is to be on the other side."
So this is how it feels. We had the lemonade and cookies out for him.
Sam's going to work on the video. We should have it in a couple hours. I think Break.com will throw it on their front page.
And I'm glad he didn't drink the lemonade or eat the cookies because I wouldn't even do that. The podium yesterday had pubes on it.
All right. You're right.
I don't think we need food to be given to our guests.
Yeah.
When that's the pubic podium.
You're right. I'm just excited we might have a viral video.
Maybe.
Everyone's about making that viral video. Let's be honest with each other.
Exactly.
And we think we got one that might get a few hits now if Sam cuts it up nice.
Maybe.